Pelvic floor and gut health. They are so directly tied, but yet most people don't truly understand how and why they are so connected, and why having one taken care of and not the other can absolutely decrease the quality and the health of the other. Today, I'm going to talk about 5 main reasons of why pelvic floor and gut health are so tied, but also so important to keep healthy and strong independently on their own. The first and the biggest reason is really all about gut dysbiosis. So gut dysbiosis is when the good bacteria in your gut is lower than the bad bacteria. And when the good bacteria is not as high as it needs to be, all kinds of complications can occur. And you can find yourself having a lot of digestive issues, a lot of gut issues in general, a lot of other signs and symptoms like autoimmune disorders, mood imbalances, rheumatoid arthritis, pains and aches in your joints, etc., etc. But gut dysbiosis is directly tied to your pelvic floor as well. And this is often related to the fact that it's all about the elimination process. So if your gut is not healthy and strong, and you have that dysbiosis going on, and it's causing some complications with your digestion and with the elimination process, maybe you have to go to the bathroom frequently, or maybe it's not as frequent as you want. This can cause a big problem. So if you find that you have to go to the bathroom frequently, there's a lot of elimination happening, and you find that diarrhea is something that's really common for you, that constant push and pressure of having to go to the bathroom, not only maybe having to push a little harder, but also frequently going, can put a lot of pressure onto those pelvic floor muscles, causing strain and causing other complications that are creating weakness in that pelvic floor. Now, not only is it causing the weakness, but it's also causing the weakness and the fatigue over time. So if you're constantly pushing and having to go to the bathroom frequently because you are dealing with a diarrhea issue, then that is really fatiguing out those pelvic floor muscles, making them not as strong to be able to hold up in other processes that they need to be strong in. Number 2, poor nutrient absorption. So nutrient absorption starts in the gut. It starts with digestion. And if your gut health is not very healthy and your digestion is not strong, your body is not going to be able to absorb the nutrients that it needs in order to be healthy. But it doesn't just stop there. That is a big issue, but it doesn't just stop there. Poor nutrient absorption can also result in things like cravings and eating too much, putting on extra weight, all of those things that are going to cause more pressure and push down on that pelvic floor, especially primarily because you may have to use the bathroom more frequently, or you may find yourself having to eliminate or maybe strain to eliminate when you do go to the bathroom. Now, the other piece to this is also what it does to the muscles themselves. So poor nutrient absorption also can decrease elasticity, it can decrease tension, and also recovery of the muscles that are keeping that pelvic floor strong. So if the muscle tension is low, it's not strong enough to hold it up, if it is decreasing the elasticity so that it doesn't rebound as fast as it should, or if it is causing a decrease in the recovery of the muscle strength itself, then over time, you're going to find that that pelvic floor just may not be strong enough to hold on tight so that it can support and do the work that it is supposed to do. Number three is all about the gut microbiome and how that influences insulin resistance and muscle wasting. So first, let's talk about what is the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor is muscles, ligaments, and fascia that sit right at the base of the trunk and that support and stabilize the body so that there is some kind of support to keep everything pulled back up. Those muscles, that soft tissue has to have some kind of bulk, some kind of elasticity, and some kind of resilience so that when it has to contract and push everything back up, it can do its job. However, when you start to have some muscle wasting, that can become a little bit of a problem. Now, as we get older, there is something that is called sarcopenia. And sarcopenia is essentially a muscle wasting of as we age. Now, sarcopenia is not inevitable. You don't have to go through this whole huge process of muscle wasting, but it is something that can occur due to the natural aging process of the body. So if those muscles in the pelvic floor start to become affected by sarcopenia because they are not being contracted, worked, conditioned, then you can start to see some real problems in the way that things drop and the way things bounce back when you're putting pressure onto that pelvic floor. When we start to see some of this sarcopenia issues popping up, you can see things like inflammation and chronic infections and, weaknesses and all these other problems. But the irony of that is it is often directly related to a poor gut microbiome. Because your gut is not able to truly absorb the nutrients that it needs in order for it to do what it needs to do to stay strong, to not experience as much of this muscle wasting that you could potentially experience. But now that also goes along into insulin resistance. Your gut microbiome is directly related to the potential of insulin resistance coming on. In 2015, there was a study done that looked at the relationship between insulin resistance and pelvic floor strength. And they found something super interesting. What they found is that as insulin resistance started to increase, the strength and the contractions of the pelvic floor started to decrease. They also found the opposite to be true. So what's really interesting is that if your gut microbiome is not strong enough, it could cause insulin resistance to occur. And if insulin resistance occurs, according to this study, you could potentially see a big dip in your strength and the contractions of the pelvic floor. Therefore, more dropping and less hold, meaning potentially more incontinence, problems with elimination, problems with the structure just not holding everything into place. Number 4. Now, we just got done talking about why the gut health is so important to pelvic floor. But number 4 is all about anxiety and mood. And all of this is tied together in one nice, neat little package. Kind of. So anxiety and mood can decrease your gut health, your digestion. It can contribute to flare-ups and other digestive problems. However, your gut health can cause anxiety and mood disturbances. So research has shown that neurotransmitters that control mood behaviors, stress, and anxiety, this is things like oxytocin, dopamine, and endorphins, they can become highly affected by the health of the gut bacteria or those gut bugs. If you do not have a lot of good gut bacteria, that can directly influence those neurotransmitters and cause problems with anxiety and mood as a sign and symptom. Stress, mood, and anxiety are also responsible for increased pelvic floor dysfunction. Again, it all goes hand in hand. If the gut health is not super healthy, then that's also going to cause a problem with the pelvic floor. But anxiety and mood disturbances also can increase the stress on the body, causing more stress on the gut, i.e. decreased gut health, but also more stress on the musculature of the pelvic floor. And when stress comes in and affects the muscles of anywhere on the body, you're going to find a decrease in performance. So, if you are dealing with a lot of anxiety and mood issues, it could be that your gut health needs a good boost, but it also could be that you need to strengthen those pelvic floor muscles in order to help take some of the stress and the anxiety off of the body physically so that you're able to use more of that to help deal with and overcome some of the anxiety and the mood things that you got going on. Number 5. Okay. So we've talked all about how the gut and a weak pelvic floor can cause a whole slew of issues. But what about a hypertonic or a too tight pelvic floor? That can do just as much damage. We don't want it to be too tight. So your pelvic floor runs from your rectum to your bladder. Okay? And if that pelvic floor is just a little bit too tight, or if it is tugging and pulling on that bladder, you're going to start to feel like you need to use the bathroom frequently. A lot of frequent urination, a lot of pressure, a lot of urgency needs. And when that starts to happen, and you do go to the bathroom, you may find elimination to actually be difficult because the pelvic floor is too tight. You're having that constant need to go, but maybe not everything's coming out the way it's supposed to. Now, to add on to that, if that elimination is challenged, this can then cause constipation. So now you're not dealing with a diarrhea issue on that part of the elimination process. You're now dealing with a constipation issue because that urgency to go is there, but you can't get anything out. So you're pushing and pushing, or maybe your gut health is not up to par, causing a lot of digestive distress that you are not able to push out because it doesn't have the nutrients to be able to do its job properly, regardless of where it's coming from. If you have that continual need to push and push and push, you're dealing with a lot of pressure being placed onto that pelvic floor. Not to mention, you're also dealing with a good buildup of potential toxins that are not being eliminated the way that it should be eliminated. And when those toxins stay tucked up in the intestines and you can't get it out of your body, now you could be dealing with a whole bunch of other issues, such as leaky gut or gut impermeability, hormonal imbalances because you can't get rid of and flush out some of the toxins that are going to directly interrupt those hormones. And you could also be dealing with some kind of infections happening. So having a pelvic floor that is too tight or too weak is both going to negatively impact you. We need to get to a place where that pelvic floor is just right, kind of like the Goldilocks effect. It's just right. It's not too tight, it's not too weak. And you can do that by simple exercises and simple action steps. One big thing is just making sure that your gut health is up to par and that you are taking care of that gut microbiome. Another piece of it is the actual physical exercise. So doing the right kind of exercises for pelvic floor strengthening. That could be something as simple as just straight up contractions like Kegels, or you could do more functional movement where you're doing modified squats, modified push-ups, bridges, and other core and low back strengthening. But again, these are things that you need to explore in what it is your own personalized needs are and find that sweet spot so that you're getting just the right amount of exercise and you're taking care of your gut in the own bio-individual ways that you need to take care of your gut health in order to make your pelvic floor nice and strong. You are able to make changes and you are able to get it to that Goldilocks effect. It's just about knowing your body, what it needs, and the steps that you need to take in order to make that happen.